Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I am back from my holidays, here with Kev and Sam to talk all things Aston Villa in a bit of a fans forum special. I know it's usually Tuesday nights, but international break, and we thought we'd all be quiet on Aston Villa's front, but it has kicked off on social media. So we wanted to come on, talk all things Aston Villa, mainly off the pitch at the moment, ticket prices, Champions League tickets, all that jazz. So we want to get your views. We want to get your thoughts. We'll obviously give our thoughts as well. And we also wanted to just talk about some of the players, Yuri Tielemans, Amadou Onana, and the John Duran versus Ollie Watkins debate. And Sam's cat, who's going mad in the background. So, yeah, let's start with you, Sam. How are you doing, mate, first of all? It's been a little while.
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Can you be quiet, please, mate? Sorry, I'm trying to do it.
He wants to have his say on the ticket prices, or is it Ollie Watkins versus John Duran?
He's seen the ticket prices. You just showed him. Can't believe it.
No more food for the cat because he's because of the ticket prices, mate. It's him or the Villa and the Villa.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good. Do you know what? Ask Kev the same question, and I'm going to get rid of the cat. Say bye, cat, and then we'll.
Bye, cat. Sam, Kev, how are you doing, mate?
Hello.
How are you? Thank you. First of all, thank you for your able assistance over the last few days on the pod. Thank you for a wonderful talking tactics with Gareth. It's got some great feedback, and doing the live show with Martin the other night as well. So awesome, mate.
Yeah, it's interesting taking your seat in the hot seat because, as you know, I think you're an absolutely splendid, tremendous, and I'm not just saying that because I like you and I'm on the channel with you, but I think you're an awesome host and so professional. So I always feel a little bit overawed, and also I like talking a lot. So when I'm hosting, it's difficult, but no, I enjoyed it, mate, and I'm glad you had a fab time celebrating the anniversary and all that. So working on the tan, having a few cocktails, everything. So, mate, good to have you back. But I'm happier this side of the fence. Although if there are any football media organisations looking for someone to do the other side of the fence, if Rich isn't available, give me a shout. Yeah, I was going to say, like, obviously there's this ticket price stuff we'll talk about, but interestingly enough, like with the Villa, there was such a massive news about the SCR, PSR stuff, and then literally without even having a chance to talk about it, you know, that massive Jacob Tanswell article in The Athletic, the next day it's like the ticket price situation. So I feel like they should have done it the other way around. They should have done the ticket prices and then they should have done the big FFP news, and it might have like been a good day to bury bad news like the old governments used to do.
Yeah, I mean, you actually raised a good point. I mean, I think obviously in terms of the timing and everything like that, there's never a good time to discuss kind of raising ticket prices and all that kind of stuff. And we'll get into it. We might as well get everyone's comments, and please jump in. Obviously, it's going mad on social media about, you know, what they've announced. And my kind of take on it is, look, I think we would all agree that there was going to be some increase in ticket prices at some point for the Champions League and for these games. You know, they are showpiece games. We haven't had anything like this at Villa Park for, you know, forever, really. You know, obviously European Cup and all that stuff, and UEFA Cup and everything. But in the profile that it is now, we haven't had anything like that at Villa Park. So to play Bayern Munich, to play Juventus, to have an event like Celtic is huge. And I think we probably would have accepted that prices would increase for this game. And there's an element, I'm sure you'll come in a second time. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but off your quotes on Twitter and in our conversations, that people would have been annoyed at whatever price Villa wouldn't have announced anyway. So there's an element of whatever they would have done, people would have been annoyed. But I think for me, it's when you factor in like almost £100 for a ticket in one of the categories, and then no concession in that category as well. I know they've dropped some of the concessions in other areas, but when you look at that headline figure of £95 for that game, and then you match that up with 4 across the 4 home games, it is a hell of a lot of money. Not only that, but the one we've talked on these fans forums is the facilities and the match day experience has kind of got worse in terms of the standard at Villa Park. So yes, on the pitch it's a showpiece occasion, but we've already moaned about the ticket prices for the Premier League games matched up with the facilities. We've talked about people walking through piss at grounds. We've talked about how long it takes to get a pint. We've talked about the ticketing chaos and stuff at the last game. So to then whack on another £20-30 on the price when you're not getting anything in return for it other than, yes, you've got the potential to go to a showpiece game, I just think it's really, really tone deaf. And for me, I think even if they'd have offered like a free pint with that price of ticket, or a free program, like a special Champions League centenary program, or something that you could offer with that price of ticket, I think that might have made it a little bit more palatable for someone, and for probably pennies that it would have cost the club to give someone something in return for paying that price for the ticket, and adding in that.
He's gone back on holiday, mate. That's it.
Is that enough? He's back to me, Sam. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Villa Park podcast with me, Kev, and Sam. No, Richard back in a second, mate. So, yes, Sam, listen, what are your thoughts then on the whole situation? Which obviously gave a good overview there. What do you reckon?
I mean, first and foremost, I never cease to love our quality production on the show. I think it's just.
Did I lose my connection?
Did you?
Yeah, I just thought it'd be
rich.
Yeah.
I think they've heard you, and they're shutting you down remotely. They've got bots attacking you.
Where did I get to?
You were just about to ask Sam what his views were.
Say that again.
You were just about to ask Sam what his views were.
Yeah. So basically, it was just in terms of the experience for the supporter, it just hasn't improved. And for me, I would have offered something for that price. But yeah, Sam, Kev, you jump in.
Go on, Sam.
Yeah. So I think it's quite a controversial topic, right? I say it's not really controversial because most of the fan base is aligned, and the general consensus is it's disgusting and it's this and it's that. And to a certain degree, I agree, and to a certain degree, I don't. So I guess I'll start with where I agree. And I said this before the season even started, really. I talked about the idea of there being a barrier to entry to watch football depending on how much money you have. I don't particularly like it. I spoke about this last season when we talked about the price for TV, like having to watch your team on TV if you can't go to the games. I've never really had a massive issue with the ticket prices at Villa, but again, I mean, it's all relative. But I agree that the costings now for some of the tickets at Villa are absolutely insane. And I'm lucky to have a season ticket, which is still quite expensive. But I think today I tried to go onto the site to get my brother a ticket for the Everton game. And there were some seats going for nearly £300. There were seats in the Holt end, in the upper Holt, going for £120. And we were laughing about it. We didn't, there was 2 or 3 left for about 50 quid. But the pricing has gotten absolutely ridiculous. And it's not just an issue in football, but it's an issue in life. Whenever, say, for example, the government has a shortfall in spend and stuff like that, the solution is always to increase tax the regular people. Rich, I love you so much. I beg you stop doing that because it's confusing the hell out of me. It's making me think you're talking to me. Yeah, it's always been the case that sort of the buck is always passed on to the consumer or the citizen or the everyday guy or the working class. That's generally how it goes. But I think for this, it's one of those where we've been through a lot of hard times recently. We've been in the Championship. We got relegated. We've had some awful football over the last 15 years, which has now culminated some really good football. But I think the Villa fans have really been there through thick and thin and maybe deserve more. Where I don't agree is I don't agree with the stick that the club are getting. And by the club, I mean the owners and even to some degree Chris Heck. Because we've seen from the owners who have been with us for what, nearly 5 years now, 5 years plus now. They've never acted in a way that makes me think that they are trying. This is not for their own gain. This isn't for profit. This isn't so that the owners can go and even buy themselves another Bugatti. I think the reason that the prices have increased, and you've seen it all summer with the club shop and with the renovations and the whole decision from the club to increase revenue streams, is all to comply with PSR and to a further degree the UEFA the UEFA money regulations that we're now subject to. So the problem that we've got is not with the club, but if we should be angry with anyone, it should be the Premier League. It should be with PSR. It should be with the UEFA rules, because we're only doing this so that we can compete. And this has always been my issue with any sort of PSR or sustainability rules, is all it does is protect the status quo. The only people who are going to benefit from this are the likes of Man United and Liverpool and Arsenal and Man City and Chelsea and even Spurs now to a certain extent, because they've had their time to invest. The whole thing is to keep the status quo as it is, to not allow teams like Aston Villa and Newcastle and anyone else, Brighton, to start challenging and compete. It's anti-competition, it's anti-competitive. And you can really very closely tie what is happening at Villa at the moment with the desire to increase revenue streams and with the increased prices and inflation of everything, including the shirts and everything else. It's all linked to PSR and trying to be compliant. I think it's right for the Villa fans to be angry about it, but it's not right at Villa fans to be angry at the club, because the club have not done this before. We nearly had a 10-point deduction and lost Champions League because we're not compliant with their dumb rules. So I get it, but I think that the anger is misdirected. That's my only thing.
Yeah, I think if a fair assessment there, Sam. Kev, what about you, mate? Before I go through some comments and kind of have another little point off the back of that.
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree with a lot of what Sam says. To be honest, the only thing I would disagree with is that I think that the difference between charging £60 and 80, 85, £90 isn't going to be the difference between us hitting PSR or not. And I know you could use that argument across other things, or maybe you just knock 10 quid off the shirts and 2 quid off the pies, and you get my point. Then that argument goes on. But I just think there's a sense, and you use this term tone deaf, right? I am big for competition. I really believe in like free markets and little government, and I just believe people should be allowed to do what they want to do. I believe if you want to smoke and spend money on cigarettes, you want to drink yourself to whatever stupid, you should have a choice to do it. And I believe companies should be allowed to do whatever they want in terms of a pricing model, right? But I do think there's a sense of, with football clubs, it does feel a bit different. I know football clubs are more businesses now, commercial enterprises, and we are. We're not fans, are we now? We're supporters or customers, whatever it's seen as. But if you consider this club, it's not that long ago when we were Championship, as it's been put around X and other social media a lot, when we had to shut the upper tier of the Trinity, where hardly anyone was going. I remember, being in the Championship, singing my heart out, Chef Wednesday away in various games, to support the club. And I've had a season ticket for every season I'm back in the Premier League until this year, which I can't afford it for a variety of reasons. Now, people can argue, well, Didham's, work harder, make more money. But you're seeing story after story of countless fans that have got 20, 30 years, some of them more, not just history with the Villa than me, but life experience than me, that have been at the Villa for 30, 40 years, that have been priced out of these games. This is the first time we've been in this competition for 41 years. So you can use the argument either, well, surely you expect it then to be a bit more expensive, and then, you've got to get what you pay for. But we might not ever be in it again. And I look at it and think, sure, you expect the prices to go up a little bit. Absolutely. But from a perspective of these 4 games at Villa Park, the price they've put it at it's taking the mick out of the supporters. And I look at it and think, no matter what you do, yeah, you charge more for the kits, we'll take that. The problem with Villa right now, and I did a tweet earlier, which I've probably used this before, this what I call foreign airport analogy. But my point is around a scenario where you're forced into making a choice. And with Villa, because I've said this to staff at the Villa in the past, I feel like with Aston Villa, I could come to the ground, you could punch me in the face, and I'd still turn up. I could come to the ground, you could pour some of the urine overflowing on me, and I'd still turn up if it was a big game, But we shouldn't have to be in this situation, and it just feels like a massive own goal when you look at the pricing that other clubs have done. Other clubs around Europe, you can argue it's different in European markets, but I think Union Berlin did like a 3-game special when it was obviously 3 home games when it was the group stage situation for like €75, and you got a commemorative like thing in a box with it or whatever it was. We've not been in the competition for 41 years. And if I look at a situation of a real world scenario, right? So I'm a single dad. If I take my kids to the games, it's going to cost me best part of £600 I've worked out to go to the 4 games. That doesn't include traveling. That doesn't include food. And that's just too much for me to stomach. I know that we count as fans in the same boat.
I think there's 2 things on that. Firstly, it's all relative, right? So when the prices were £60, you could have said 10 years before that. I remember buying Villa tickets. Maybe I was a little bit younger and that's why, but I remember buying Villa tickets for £20, £30, £35. Obviously now we're at £100. But the idea of, people are getting priced out. Well, yeah, some people are getting priced out now, but there were people who were being priced out before when the tickets were £60. Like it's all relative. If you want to say no one should be priced out of football, then the tickets have to be free, because there are a lot of single parents or parents on low incomes and low income households who can't afford to take their kid or send themselves to the football on each week.
But there's got to be a threshold, and I get your point, like, because you could say 30.
What's the threshold? Is the threshold when it becomes too expensive for you? Because that seems to be the case. And I'm not talking about you personally. I'm talking about
no. I think you compare. I think you compare the wider market. My gauge for it is, I think you make a valid point, because there's fans that would have paid £30 that all of a sudden 40 and 50 is too much. So I think you're making a bang on point there. I think you've got to look at what other clubs do. The tweet I put out yesterday was Newcastle last year. It's only last year. Newcastle are trying their best with PSR and all. They're trying to break the stranglehold of the big clubs. They're in the same boat. They priced it at £55 for adult tickets.
But the thing is, Kev, they're not in the same boat, and I'll tell you why. So the UEFA rules specifically, forget PSR, because PSR is a shit show. We know what that's there for. But the UEFA rules that apply to everyone are different. So the rules say that your spend for your squad can only make up 80% of your annual revenue. Now, Liverpool are not in the same squad as us because their revenue is 5, 6, 7 times as much as ours. The same with Man United. The same with any established big club in the Champions League. If you look at Union Berlin, for example, there's only so much that they are able to pay anyway. So keeping within those limits are fine. Villa are in a really weird position where I think we kind of almost have to be honest with ourselves and say, look, we're Aston Villa. We're a club that we love. You've got loads, almost exclusively local support. You've got support from little dots here and there all over the world. You've got, villages in Ghana. You've got all these, but we don't have a massive support outside of Birmingham, really. That's where the majority is. We're not a Man United. We're not a Liverpool. We're not an institution where people will travel from around the world. You'll have 20,000, 30,000 tourists in Old Trafford on any given Saturday. So we're never, at least for the foreseeable, until we win something, we're never going to be that kind of club. But the problem is, until we match what they are spending, or at least if we can spend half of it or come close, we're never going to be that. We're never going to be that team, because we can't win and we can't compete. And that's the only way to increase the profile of your club. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care about Villa being on the screen in Times Square in New York. The only way to get out of the position we're in now is to win trophies. And you can win a Carabao Cup or you can win an FA Cup. No one's really going to care. You need to do a league. you need a European competition. But we can't do that. So in terms of the other clubs, Liverpool charging 50, 60 quid, they're not in the same boat as we are because they have revenue to play with. And they can do it all day. And the thing is, clubs like Chelsea can just pop a hotel to themselves and no one seems to care. It counts 90 million on a hotel they already own. They just transfer the ownership. That's it. But no one. But Villa are not privileged with that same level of discretion that the Premier League seems to give. So I think.
But I was going to say, I think if you look at the PSR situation, me and Gareth spoke about it for about 5 minutes at the start of the Talking Tactics because obviously it just broke. Mm-hmm. Like if you look at the Villa fans and their views on the transfer window, and I do think these points around ticket prices absolutely link into obviously our challenges around PSR. Loads of clubs are unhappy. You know, Arsenal are an injury from Havertz away from probably thinking they've blown the league. Man City are arguably an injury from Haaland away from saying the same. Newcastle fans are gutted that they've not strengthened because obviously they nearly got Gay, they didn't get it in the end. You know, Man United fans are bemoaning, you know, have they strengthened in the wrong areas? You look at all the clubs, pretty much everybody saying, other than maybe West Ham, who've probably bought quite a few players, that they think their team should have bought more players and they've been hamstrung by it and they've had to cut their cloth accordingly. I get your point around the fact that Villa are probably different in terms of the global reach, and I get it. But my argument to that would always be, with all of the different revenue streams we've got available, right? That, you know, the longer runs in competitions, the fact that Champions League is giving us 4 games at Villa Park and, you know, big money for winning them. And if you progress, you know, you'll make a lot of money out of that. New TV deals, Betano, Adidas, all that kind of stuff. Does an extra 15 to 20 quid on a Champions League ticket for 4 games make that much difference?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me tell you why. So
more than it does to the fans who are being priced out.
Let me tell you why. So if you take a club like Man United, for example, they've got double the size of our stadium. So you can take the same example and cut it by half, right? So their match day revenue from tickets and food and people going into the club shop at the stadium for most match days is somewhere around 20 to 25 million. Now, our stadium is half the size and we probably don't have as many tourists. So let's say you half that and you say it's 10 million, 10, or even less, you say it's 7 million. So from match day earnings, for everything included, we were minutes away from we were hours away from a 10-point deduction that would have cost us Champions League if we hadn't sold Douglas Luiz. Like that has come out in the news. We know that to be true now. So these little increments.
Just on that, that was actually the interview that I did before all of those interviews and before Jacob did his great piece. I did that with Tom Colomassi about a month ago, and I got criticised for being too glum about Villa's chances in the transfer window because Colomassi broke that before. So that was an exclusive on our channel, actually, because he said at the Conference League semi-final, he said the atmosphere around the boardroom and the kind of corporate was really weird because they were really worried about PSR. And I got criticised, not by just in the comments around kind of how we, not by our viewers, obviously our loyal viewers, but by some viewers who maybe just tuned into that episode by saying we were being too negative, but it actually came out to be true.
But that's the thing, right? So they were at the time considering selling Douglas Luiz and thinking, how can we imagine doing all the work that we did last year and then not getting Champions League on a technicality because we broke the PSR rules? We'd all be livid. So we sold Douglas Luiz for around £45 million as like a package. But in terms of the actual cash that we put on the balance sheet, which we saw from the release from Juventus to their investors, it was about 20 million quid actually that we added onto the balance sheet that got us away from that 10-point deduction. So when you say, Kevin, what is the difference? If in theory we'd added an extra £30 onto the ticket prices last year per match per person, you might be talking about an Aston Villa with Douglas Luiz in the side now. So even if it's not, it's one of those things where fine, 30 quid on the tickets, an extra tenner on the shirts, a little bit extra on the food or something else like increasing the viewership, whatever it is, it all adds up, doesn't it? Like what other option do they have? There's only so much they can get from Adidas and Betano and whatever.
It does add up, and I get it. And I understand all of it. Imagine there's 50 areas that they can increase prices on, right? I mean, we could make the same point, couldn't we, around, well, if you want a pie and it's going to be £10, we need to make more money. Yeah, and a pint's going to be 12 quid now, but hey, listen, if you're thirsty and you want to have a drink. I just think this, because it's such, I understand why they've done it, because obviously back to the point I make about the airport, like, you know, if you need a sandwich and there's nowhere else to go, you got a choice, you're going to buy it or you're not. If you want to go watch Villa play Bayern Munich and Juventus and Celtic, we might not qualify next season, who knows what's going to happen, then you're absolutely in a situation where you're either going to pay it or you're not. And I think a lot of Villa fans will be getting themselves into a bit of debt. You know, I'm going to look at what I can do for a couple of the games, and it's going to go on a credit card, because I want, I don't want to.
Sorry.
No.
No. It's really, really important that I clarify this. I do not think that the solution to the issues that Villa have are to charge fans through the nose. £100 for a ticket is not sustainable. You won't get full houses, and it's morally and ethically wrong. But what I'm trying to say is, the reason that they're doing all of this nonsense and all of these crazy things is to deal with the PSR rules, which are shit. They shouldn't be there.
I think everyone understands why you're saying it, Sam, and we agree. I agree.
But I'm not justifying it. I'm saying what they need to do is, the owners, they talk about sustainability and we don't want the club. What happened to QPR and other clubs that have gone into administration to happen to any other clubs? Fine, I don't mind that. But what if they said to the Villa owners, fine, if you want to inject 100 million quid into the club, not as a loan, don't leverage it against anything. That is just cash that you want to inject into the club. So there is absolutely no risk of that 100 million affecting the club. Why is that a problem? Why is there a sustainability issue if the owners decide to inject a massive amount of money into the club and say, we don't want it back as a loan, we're just injecting in, we'll take our dividends as we normally do because we think that it's going to generate more money? Why can't they do that? And this is my problem with PSR. And we all need to, instead of protesting against the owners and protesting against Chris Heck, who, let's be honest, he seems to be a mercenary for hire. This is what he does. He
just does it. He
is an arsehole. But that's his job.
Yeah, but Sam, the thing is as well, you know, us as supporters, we were all lauding Chris Heck 3 weeks ago when the kit was announced on Times Square and he was doing all that, and the video with Ozzy Osbourne and everything like that. It was like, this is amazing, like, well done, Chris Heck. So you can't kind of have it both ways. And for me, I think it's a value proposition. For me, I think people saw the kit, right, of Adidas kit, and people were queuing up to buy the kit for £110. The Pro kit, it sold out in minutes, right? Online, sold out in minutes. So therefore, the value proposition, people thought, actually, that is a good product for the price that I'm going to pay for it, right? So for me, I think the value proposition, because I don't think it was helped with the fact that the home game previously had so many issues, and people had so many issues with trying to get in the ground and the facilities inside the ground, and there was no improvements and stuff like that, and they'd already increased the ticket prices for that. Then you're hiking up the ticket prices again for a Champions League game where those facilities will not have improved in any way, shape or form. So for me, I think it's the value proposition. If they'd have said, right, if you're paying this price for the ticket and we will give you a free program, a free pint when you go in, people would have probably said, you know what, a program's going to be £5, a pint's going to be £6, that's 11 quid. Okay, I'll take that. Like, people would have done that. I think it's a value proposition. I just don't think people see the value.
I think for some people, regardless of how much free stuff you give them, I think a lot of people are still going to struggle to pay that amount. But I think when I say about Chris Heck, when I say he is an arsehole, but he's very good at his job. He's very good at doing the things that generate revenue, and that's what he has done. But I think the last thing I would say on this, because I think you boys have covered it, and I've really said my piece on this.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is, when the Villa fans are, obviously there's that thing circulating on, online about pre-Everton game and during the Everton game and turning your back on the first 97 seconds and stuff like this. I just feel like, fine, if you want to protest, but I really feel like we need to do more to communicate to the league, to the Premier League, that PSR is, and I want everyone to really understand this, the whole design of PSR is to keep those in power in power. That is it. It's to keep the established top six in their rightful places. And they said it openly because they are who people want to see. People don't want to see teams like Aston Villa doing well. People don't want to see Leicester winning the league on more than one occasion. They want to know that their favourite teams are going to win. All these Man City fans that are around the world who have been Man City fans for the last 5 years, they don't want to tune into Premier League and see a hard-fought game against Southampton or anyone else. And this is the design of the Premier League. And again, it's financially motivated because they make money off the Premier League if their favourite teams, if more popular teams are winning. So redirect that anger towards the Premier League. Villa did a vote last year, just onto your point, Kev, where you said everyone's in the same boat. Villa put a vote forward to the rest of the Premier League clubs last year to get rid of PSR, and only was it 2 other people voted in favour? Everyone else said no, and 1 abstained. So they all had the opportunity to get rid of this, but the bigger clubs will never do it because it doesn't suit them. So redirect your anger. I think everyone should make it known to the Premier League on against Everton that it's not on.
I don't think most people are. I think it's this. I think it's a specific point. I think people have taken the Adidas kit price increases, the training kit being more expensive, the season tickets being more expensive, generally pretty well. When you also add to that, and I put this in the tweet I put out earlier, the general standard of customer service is a bit shoddy. It is a bit, well, this is what it is. The staff walk around like, sometimes when you want a pint, like, they've been told, sponsored walk as slow as you can in between the till and the fridge. You get a vibe of sense that, you've got urine in the toilets overflowing. You can't even get in the ground. You're missing 20 minutes of the match. Combine all this together, I think the Villa fans have largely taken a lot of things that haven't been great and prices going up because the product on the pitch has been unbelievable and Unai's a magician. But I think this is, for me, the one thing which is the straw that breaks the camel's back because it's such an increase on what it is comparative to a lot of clubs. Whatever the reasons are, I think most Villa fans, certainly I think, agree that PSR is an absolute racket that protects the big clubs. But this is such an own goal from the club. And if you'd charged it at 80 quid, maybe 70 for the lowest one, I don't know, 60 for the lowest one, 80 for the top one, it's a little bit more. But it's 4 games. Don't forget, if we get through, there'll be more home games at 100 quid.
Do you think 360 instead of 400 quid is more palatable, Kevin, or 320 for 4 games, like a third of the cost? Because if you, I think we're all on the same page. But I'll pose a question to the both of you then. What would you have them do? What would you have them do? Because they've maximised the sponsorship. It's record sponsorship for the front of shirt sponsor, record sponsorship from Adidas, record sponsorship from X, Y, and Z. They've redone the club store to make it more inviting. They've renovated the area as much as the council that has fallen apart will let them do it. What apart from just taking the hit? I would
have probably
build a hotel and sell it back to themselves.
Yeah, no, I would have.
That is it. I
would have probably set the highest ticket price at £10 less than the 95. So the highest ticket price at 85 quid, and I'd have still had a concessionary rate at all categories. I would have offered a package of 4 tickets for, say, maybe like a sum of £20 less. Or maybe £30 less than with them all combined in total across the board. So the top price would have been 170, so 200, 340, so maybe 300 quid for the top bracket for the 4 tickets included. And at that top bracket, I maybe would have offered something like a free pint on entry, or a commemorative program or something like that when you go in. I would have offered some sort of value proposition.
That would have been palatable. I think for a lot of people it wouldn't have been. But I'll tell you what the worst thing about all of this is over the last 2 years, I've spent more time talking about football economics than I have ever spent in the rest of my life. I am so sick of everyone needing to be a qualified economist to just discuss football. Like we've been on for 35 minutes. We've not mentioned a kick of a football. We've not mentioned a player. All we're talking about is the economics and the surrounding area and the accessibility to honestly, excuse my language, but oh my God, do they not see what this is doing to football? Do they not see
it's crazy, man. It is crazy.
Talking about shit that, let's be honest, we don't really understand. It's irritating.
It's such an own goal, isn't it? Because if they had put the prices out a little bit more, like we say, if it had been, 65 quid and 85 quid or whatever, I think we'd be going, oh, they're taking the piss a bit. I don't think it would have got this level of vitriolic response across the fan base, because it feels like it is just such an own goal, and it's unnecessary to be this much. They can argue that it is necessary. We can understand the arguments around PSR, but I just think what this does to so many fans now thinking, because it does add up, doesn't it? If you talk about the difference in the price of tickets, well, if you've got 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, the travel to all those games, food, I mean, it does all add up in the end. So, you know,
I will just do some comments. We've had so many comments, and we've got 250 people watching across both X and YouTube as well, which is amazing stuff. We've gone over 4,600 subscribers recently as well, so thank you so much for all your support. Make sure you hit the like button on YouTube if you haven't already, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you're on X and watching, please follow us at Villa Park Pod. We've actually just gone over 4,500 followers on X as well, and follow Kevin at KTAVFC and Sam at Samwise1071. Yeah, and please do continue to support the channel. Roderick says PSR is the reason, but it's over the top. Can't sort out the toilets, but can afford to ruin the tunnel. I like the tunnel, I have to say. Jamjack says nothing to the detriment of the fans. Heck's job is to bring in money. If you can't make it externally, you milk your own cows to death. Not good business. Sharik says, not going to lie, I'll pay the £90 for a Champions League ticket if the others want to protest. No shame here. And Peter says, I saw a great interview with Chris Heck where he detailed how the club want to revenue to the level needed to compete consistently at top 4 level. Lewis says, the problem I have with Chris Heck is that he doesn't communicate with us fans, which is a good thing that Christian Perslow did. I think part of the problem as well is those interviews were around, you know, I think, again, that this is the palatable part of it, is his interview with Gabby Agbonlahor, and what he did, I think, when he launched certain things, was to say he wants to keep the traditional fan at the heart of the club and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, that does feel a little bit of a kick in the teeth as well. That does feel a little bit hypocritical. And I just think, you know, it's one of those things that obviously salesmen and people say all that stuff. And it's when a player says, you know, I'm committed to the club, and then the next week they leave, not mention any names. But like, you know, it's that kind of level of kind of betrayal almost. You know, I don't know why we expect any more from them, but it does seem that way. People also saying about a bigger stadium and kind of that's where the revenue will be increased. But I don't think we're going to be able to do that at the moment. So, look, it's caused a lot of debate, and I think Sam's right. We talk about this now so much in terms of profit and sustainability and UEFA rules and all this stuff, and when we just talk about football. So let's talk about football, lads. Let's talk about a good thing that's happening on the pitch, and that is Yuri Tielemans and Amadou Onana. Now, let's start with Yuri, because you mentioned before we came on the show, Sam, I put a tweet out, and it basically got about 50,000. It's gone crazy on our Villa Park Pod account, and so many people complimenting Yuri Tielemans, how good he's been since the start of the season, how he's taken to this role in midfield, how he plays the ball so quickly. You know, everything's done in 1, 2, and 3 touches. How creative he is, how good in the tackle he is, just what an influence he is at the moment. And you called it as well last season in terms of how he grew into the team. And yeah, just some words on how good he's been, because, you know, in general, not in general, 100% of the comments that I had, I think, I don't know how, I can't tell, probably about 300 comments I've had about him have just been so positive.
Yeah, I love Yuri Tielemans. I think he's brilliant. I thought he was brilliant last year as well. Like the little cameos at the start of the season, even when he wasn't firing. I don't know if you remember, like at the start, there were a lot of people talking about his agent coming out and saying, you know, about him not starting and stuff like that. And I remember saying to you at the time, Rich, I was like, just leave him alone, just let him play. Mm-hmm. He's going to be brilliant for us. And I did. You know, I guess you always take a gamble. I say I called it. I mean, that was my prediction. It turns out that it was right. But it's just everything he does. I think before the season started, after we sold Douglas Luiz, I said that I didn't think we were going to be too bad because we already had his replacement. And I was saying that from the summer. Douglas Luiz's replacement was already in the squad. I think overall, I think he's a better player overall. I don't think he has the passing range that Douglas Luiz does. But I think he's got a brilliant passing ability. I think he's better in the challenge. I think he plays forward quicker. I think he plays that defensive role a lot better than Douglas Luiz does. And I think he's very composed and controlled, and he's quite quiet. You know what I mean? You never really see him, throwing his hands. He's not as flamboyant as Douglas Luiz. He's a bit more of a calming influence on that midfield. And now he's piled up with his mate, not Andre, but Amadou Onana in the middle. I just think he's brilliant. It's such an acquisition. Like, if you remember, we got him on a free. It's money in the bank, and I think he's, for a long time, he can play a really, really big role in this Villa squad. And I love watching him play football week in, week out. And yeah, I just hope he can stay fit. And I think he's really going to be a leader of this team. Yeah.
Sam mentioned it there, Kev. We got him on a free transfer, and you think, he came in last season and it was a little bit frustrating for him maybe. And then he kind of got in the side, then got injured, and but towards the end of the season, almost carried us at times in that midfield, especially with Douglas Luiz getting injured and then not coming back quite the same player. McGinn a little bit tired as well towards the end of the season. And this season, just we were at the West Ham game, and it was just a joy to watch him. Sometimes, just every time he gets it, he's always looking. What I love about Yuri is he's already knows where he's going to go with the ball or pass the ball before he receives it, and that's the sign of a really good player for me. And free transfer.
Well, it's bad. I'm thinking, it's free, was he? So you could have saved a bit of money on the tickets for us. So
we moved on, Kev. We moved on.
Remember that you could have got Yuri for 5 million. It would have been a good deal. No, listen, we won't go back into that. Absolutely not. I apologise for that slightly lame gag. So what I love about Tielemans is exactly that. Like, the way when he receives the ball. There was a goal last season I thought epitomised Yuri. It was a goal in the Sheffield United game. I think it was the Watkins when we beat them 5-0. Not where we ruined the chance to go top of the league, not that game. Where I think the ball kind of came into him, and literally in like the same touch, he basically controlled it with one foot, and in the same motion, just passed it first time with the next foot, just so fluid, straight into the path. I think for maybe Watkins or Bailey who scored. He releases the ball so quickly. He's actually a bit more of a terrier and gets stuck in more than I actually realised he was around the pitch. Epitomised by that great tackle on Vardy right at the end of the game. He's just been absolutely fantastic, hasn't he? And we spoke about this on the pod the other day. That bringing in Onana clearly wasn't a direct replacement for him, but having a look at all of our key assets that could have been sold. If you'd have sold Martinez, best keeper in the world, but who are you bringing in to replace him? You maybe if you're going to shop for a new keeper, you're getting a Ramsdale or a Neto or whoever's available for your price tag, and that's not going to be the same level. If you're selling Watkins, again, are you relying on Duran, who's unproven as a starter in the Premier League? So of all of the elite options we had, we'll come up to that. Of all of the elite players in the squad, like the best ones in the squad, saleable assets, the only one that had a replacement in inverted commas was Douglas Luiz. And what Onana's done, he's just added to that with something we didn't have before, which is a steal, the solidity, the height, the physicality. He's added that. And Tielemans, I think he's stepped into the shoes now of Luiz absolutely brilliantly. I just think
I think he's better than him last season, I think he was better than him back in the last season. I think he was.
I think start of last season for me, I thought Luiz was our best player up until Christmas.
He was for like the first half, first third of the season.
Brilliant.
I think when
maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they were happy. They were happy for Tielemans, because there's been rumours, hasn't there, of a fallout after Olympiacos, and obviously.
I think Tielemans suits the way that Emery likes to play in midfield. That just that little bit more than maybe Douglas Luiz did. Like I think he wants. When there's that ability to play through the lines quickly, I think Yuri Tielemans does that better than what Douglas Luiz used to do. Like we how many times do we get frustrated, Sam, about Luiz just holding onto the ball that's that little bit too long, or playing that casual pass along, like just along the back to whoever it was, whereas Tielemans, he knows where he's going. He's turned his body into position before. That's his first touch, the way he moves his body, and then it's a touch and then it's a pass, or even it's just a pass straight away. Like he released Watkins against Arsenal last season. He released Watkins against Leicester in the game the other day. Just the ball goes across his body and then he plays the ball through. Luiz would have taken like one touch, then he would have flicked it with the outside of his foot, then he'd probably done a little flick up and shouldered it into like into Ollie Watkins. I'm obviously being facetious there, but you get my point. Yeah, he's just so quick with the way he plays, and I just love that intelligence. And I think that suits how Emery wants his midfield players in that position to play.
Well, the good news is we'll get to see it. Douglas Luiz versus Yuri Tielemans at Villa Park.
Yeah.
Well, if you can afford to come, you'll get to see it. But yeah, I think it's really funny because I think people talk about Onana being Luiz's replacement. I think it was Tielemans, and I think Ross Barkley was brought in to supplement Tielemans. I think Onana is actually covered for Kamara. I think the idea is to have them battle for positions and have more than one player who does what Kamara does. So it's going to be really interesting when he's fit, actually, because the only way I can really see this working is if him and Onana play together and Tielemans comes in for like a Morgan Rogers or a McGinn. I don't see, or Kamara is just going to have to. Unfortunately for Emery, in terms of like headache selection, Kamara's not really going to be up to speed for a good while. So he's probably not going to be ready to challenge for the first team until January, at which point we'll have had another 17 injuries. So he'll probably have to.
Yeah, we'll be crying for him.
Yeah, and I think that's it. We just, that midfield looks more stable than it did last year. I know we still can't keep a clean sheet to save our lives, but I don't know about you boys, but I do feel like it's more stable. You get less loose passes than Luiz was doing towards the back end of last season. I mean, let's be honest. Like, Luiz is a brilliant player, and on his day when he turned up, what a player, man! Like, we all love to watch him, and he did some incredible things. Obviously, he was our penalty taker. I'm still waiting for a penalty, by the way, boys, so I can see who our penalty taker is this year.
Yeah, I know.
I'll say for one thing, Ollie Watkins doesn't have my vote for penalty taker, not the way he's been going at the moment. But no, I think we're looking quite good in midfield. I think we're looking quite healthy, and I think it's nice that they're both like Belgian. They're both not a dissimilar age. They're quite close to each other in age, and Onana seems to have not just settled in with the fans really well. He's obviously a fan favorite already after 3 games, but you see him with like John Duran at the end of the game. He's sort of got his arm around everyone, and he's really embedded himself into that squad so quickly, which I knew he would because he's just so charismatic. He's such a charismatic and a brilliant guy. And I think as long as the performances match his energy, off the pitch as well, you've just got an absolute gem in the squad there. So fair play to him.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I was
Kev,
going to say he's such a unit, though, isn't he? That when he's got his arm around everyone, it's not hard for him because his arms are so long. He could just do it with everybody in one go. Like that physicality.
You're not going to say anything to him. You're not going to go, "Oi, get off."
I'm surprised, Rich. I was expecting you to say he needs to go to the gym or something because although he's 6'5", you do like absolute units. You like linebackers in our team. I'm surprised you don't.
Yeah, to be fair, he could do with getting in the gym. I think. Yeah.
He's been great.
You invite him out to Liverpool at home. You invite him out beforehand and see how that goes for you. I think he's absolutely fine.
Yeah, he'd be all right. I'm sure. But look, you mentioned Amadou. And Kev, you're trying to get your song going. Do. But it wasn't going at.
It wasn't going, was
West
it?
Ham. But
yeah,
yeah,
you like it, don't you? Do. It's got legs, definitely.
I just want to know what the next bit is after that.
Yeah.
I feel like you haven't thought it the whole way through because after do, what's next?
Oh, give me 10 seconds. I can come up with you.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, can we just pause for 10 seconds and give Kev some time to think?
We're gonna do this live on X, and do up the Villa Blues are shit. Do up the Villa Blues are shit. Do up the Villa Blues are shit.
I don't
there you go. That's it. Yeah. Perfect. Simple.
I put you on the spot there, and you rose to the challenge.
Yeah, good man. There, look. Yes, Peter's got it. Score another 2-2-2. I think I like the up the Villa one better. But yeah, he's already got 2 goals though, Kev. And look, we mentioned when he came in about obviously he's going to bring that physicality, he's going to bring that heightened power that we needed in midfield, but driving with the ball forward, he's been brilliant. Some of the passes, that partnership he's got with Tielemans as well. But one of the areas where he said he would probably want to improve on is the goal scoring, because I think it was 2 goals last season for Everton, and he's already scored 2 goals for Villa. So that, I mean, he might not score again this season, but I can't see it. So he's already on track to kind of look at that improvement. And he's mentioned about Unai Emery being that coach who he's never asked more from a player already. So you think about the ceiling that he's got to grow and to improve, and it's an exciting prospect.
Yeah, me and Mark spoke about it the other day on the pod. Onana scored 2 goals in 25 games for Hamburg at SV. He scored 1 in 32 for Lille. He scored 3 in 63 for Everton, and he scored 2 in 3 for Aston Villa. So his ratio is absolutely sensational. You know, he could only score he could score no goals for the next season and a half, and be comparatively to what he did at Everton. So I think that obviously it's a bit of a purple patch. The thing I love about him, yeah, the off the field stuff is brilliant. He's the arm round Duran, the way he's supporting the people, his interviews, he's how articulate he is. He's got a great personality. The fans are endeared with him. But what I love about him is, particularly with that Mings in the team, is he is a presence in both boxes. And I think we might have mentioned this in the post-match West Ham game, but there was a spell where West Ham put the ball in the box like 2 or 3 times, and he kept heading it out. And if it goes in the box, he's winning the header. Doesn't matter who else he's around, he's winning it. You know, and he's already shown with his long limbs getting obviously the first goal against Leicester. And I don't think there's anyone else in our team, maybe bar Tyrone Mings, and he's not been in our team for over a year now, who could have scored that goal he scored at West Ham. No. No one else, I don't think he's going to run through the defence and rise that high and smash it in with the head. I don't think Konza could do it. I've not really seen Carlos be that dominating in terms of that kind of situation. He just gives us the physicality. And when Duran's on the pitch and Barkley's on the pitch, we've talked about this, Rich. We used to salivate over having all these big strapping lads. Careful what I'm saying here, right? You know, all these big muscly lads on the pitch. Didn't we? Me and you used to absolutely love that. But
bring back Keenan.
Yeah, wow, Keenan Davies and that team would be amazing, yeah. But oh my God, imagine Rudy Gestede. Is he available? Maybe. But Villa have been a little bit weak over the years, and actually that was one of the things that you could probably level at a Douglas Luiz. Sometimes if he wasn't on his game, he'd get knocked off the ball, and I just think it gives us such a weapon now. He's such an asset to that team. But he's so much better on the ball than people realise. You saw that actually even in that West Ham game, little turns and tricks. And I just think he's got the potential to go even higher. I think what he's needed has been a good coach. And he's got that now with Unai Emery. And we've talked, haven't we, in the past about Emery improving players to no end. What about when he's getting players who are actually already at a high level, like multiple international caps? What can he do with them? What would Emery do with Haaland? He'd score 500 goals a season. He's just done an unbelievable job with him already. So I am Onana all the way.
Des is well into this song, Kev. He's well into it.
Do. Score a goal or maybe 2. Do. He will leap way over you. I like it, yeah?
That's brilliant.
You could do the, what's the other one? The Rihanna one is I was like, oh, nah.
What's but that's too obvious, though.
Not Andre. Oh, nah.
We were singing that last season when he was playing for Everton. Or you could do do, and my name is not Andre. Do, and my name is not Andre. You could basically take the piss out of the interview, couldn't you? But there you go. Anyway, anyone's got any more suggestions? Get it in.
The only thing I'd say about Onana, I'd say the only thing that is that if there is a slight cause for concern, devil's advocate on him, he does seem a bit rash in the challenge, doesn't he, boys?
Yeah, that's
seems a bit,
yes.
Everton
criticised him for that as well.
He got a yellow card against Leicester really early on in the game. It was like 20 minutes in or something like that. A silly foul.
Sam, I think I got a yellow card against Leicester. That referee was given it to
everybody. You're right, but I think his yellow card was a deserved yellow card. I mean, there was a lot of nonsense going on in that game, but it was a yellow card. And for the rest of the game, with like 70, well, he didn't play for 70 minutes, but for the rest of the time he was on, he looked a little bit hamstrung because he couldn't really make a challenge. And we had so many, like Kev says, it turned into a game. We had so many players on yellow cards. I'm sure he would have got one for something that wasn't a yellow card eventually, but it was that kind of thing where no one could really put in the challenge for Theo. Like Luca Dean could have been sent off about 3 times as well. So he's, the only thing I would say about him is maybe he needs to pick his challenges a little bit better. I don't mind a good old tactical foul, tactical yellow every now and then, but I do wonder if he's going to start maybe getting a red card or 2. I don't know.
I think there's definitely a danger in the Champions League, and him definitely getting the 5 yellow card suspension and the 10 yellow card suspension. So
yeah, he'll have that by October, mate.
Yeah, so I do agree with you there, Sam. But look, I think it's an element of. I mean, that's just something that we're going to have to maybe accept a little bit with him. And we've said, sometimes Villa have to be a little bit nastier, and there's been times where teams have. Maybe he just needs to be a bit cleverer with the fouls and stuff, like because there's teams that seem to make 4 or 5 individual players make 4 or 5 fouls against us, and they never seem to get a yellow card. So
shocking.
Maybe he just needs to be a bit clever about it.
Do you remember?
Notice, is he like you're gonna notice him making fouls? Like I don't know how.
He ain't getting away with it. I was going to say, do you remember the which will last longer, the lettuce or Liz Truss? Remember that, all that banter? I wonder if they've got a thing. What will happen first? Kamara returning or Onana getting the threshold of yellow card suspension? Because we need Kamara. Mate, if Kamara's back soon, then this is the thing. Like we need to really appreciate this now, particularly in midfield. If we did lose Onana to the booking suspension, and you had Kamara fit and Barkley, you could probably deal with it for a game or 2. You're not bringing in a Dendoncker or maybe an Arogbonum or putting Chambers in there. That gives me a hell of a lot of confidence. I know we're a bit light on the right-hand side, in areas, but in terms of the middle of the park now, particularly when Kamara's fit, I think he could be tenacious enough to get himself an extra booking, miss the next match. All right, well, no, we were going to rest him anyway because Kamara's going to come straight back in.
Yeah. Look, it's great having them, and they're playing very, very well at the moment. I'm excited to see what they can bring. Now, you talk about competition and maybe some, I guess, not a changing of the guard. That's probably the wrong thing, but certainly some pressure being put on a certain position, and we've talked about this at time. Yeah, and a certain Mr. John Duran is now. Villa fans are now back in love with him, apart from Martin, I think, but came on Saturday against Leicester City, and within 2 minutes, his first touch of the ball, towering header into the corner. Came on against West Ham. We saw him sweeping the ball into the back of the net. After, unfortunately, 2 or 3 ineffective performances from Ollie Watkins. Now, on one side, it's great to have a player to come on like a John Duran and cause havoc and make such a big impact. And there's been all these stats going around about him being only second in terms of minutes to goals than obviously he said Alfie Haaland, than Haaland in the Premier League. But does it raise the question that after the international break, does Duran get the start above Ollie Watkins? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Not yet. There you go. Over to you, Sam. No, I think he's doing all the right kind of things. I think he absolutely is. I don't think he's ever been that convincing when he has started games. I think at the moment he's actually best suited to being the chaos kid, as we'll call him now. Not Den Duncan, who's the other one? Zaniolo, as left, so he's no longer got his twin with him. I think he just needs to keep doing what he's doing. I think for any striker, 3 games into the season, who's getting himself in the positions Watkins has to probably have, 3 or 4 good chances. I would be surprised if they were to drop Watkins unless he's got an injury. And it might be that maybe the decision is made easy to say, Ollie, you're not quite ready. We're going to give John a go. I think if you get to 4, 5, maybe 6 games, bear in mind, we're still winning. We lost to Arsenal. I did make this point the other day. If Watkins had scored one of his 2 gilt-edged chances, then we may well have not lost that game. But I think it's probably a bit too early to say after 3 games, because Watkins is the kind of player where he's absolutely flourished under Emery saying to him, "You're my guy. You're my guy." And he did it when he came in, and he scored 12 or 13 goals in the second half of the season from when Emery arrived. Emery's literally giving him all of the confidence that he needs. So I think Watkins, he's an England player. He scored 27 goals last season. I think 3 games into the season, he's not been performing to the level we want him to. He's a bit early to then say we're going to drop you. I think it sets a bit of a bad message. But if he misses a couple of chances in the next 2 games, then I think Duran will get his chance.
Well, this is the thing. I can feel Sam there with the devil's advocate question coming in to say, when is the time? When is a suitable time for John Duran to get the start over Ollie Watkins? And John Duran will believe that he is. If he wouldn't be a professional footballer if he didn't believe that he should be starting, and he is doing everything in his power, and he is performing on the pitch and doing his job as a striker to make him valid to start a game. So what else can John Duran do other than get subbed onto the pitch, score a goal, win 6 points for Aston Villa, to then potentially get a start?
You're asking me? Yeah. What else can he do? Well, I don't think it's a simple question, because obviously there's context, isn't there? If there's a number of scenarios that could play out, but I don't know. I think we have to factor in one thing, right? That Watkins didn't score towards the end of last season as well.
I'm not saying I agree with it. This is just that's the devil's advocate. That's the John Duran position, to say he's knocking on the manager's door.
I think 5 or 6 games of Duran making the impacts he's making off the bench, showing what he's done. I mean, what else can he do? He's come off the bench in 3 games. He scored in 2 of them, 2 winners. So he's doing as much as he can be doing. I think 2 or 3 more games. I mean, the thing is right now that you've got to have confidence that if you said to a player, listen, we want to get you back into a bit of form. If Watkins is fit, Everton at home, young boys, I think they've lost all 6 games this season, young boys who've got the Champions League the next game. Then we've got Wolves at home. Then we've got Wickham away. Then we've got Ipswich. So if you were ever going to have a run of games as a top 4 qualified team to get you an opportunity to get 2 or 3 goals and get your season up and running, that is the run of games that you want. So, but you could also make the same point. If there's ever a run of games for an informed striker to absolutely cash in, John Duran, that's a run of games you want. So you could probably make the same argument there.
Sam?
Hello.
Hello, Sam.
Hi, Sam. All right.
I can't win here. I can't win, boys. It's a lose for me, because
be yourself. Be yourself. Be yourself. Don't sanitize it.
I'm letting you cook, Sam. Just cook.
I'm gonna put myself on mute.
Oh, all right, let's do this. So, let's start with the obvious. Let's start with John Duran. He had a very turbulent summer. Yeah, I think he had a brilliant season last season. For the amount of minutes that he played, I think his contribution was excellent. I think he's shown at the start of this season that he is wildly effective. And the thing is about John Duran that kind of maybe goes under the radar, because he's scored 2 winning goals and kind of got the points. All the points that they'll have on the board have come from John Duran goals. I think people have kind of shied away from how good he is off the ball now. Tracking back, covering Luca Dean at left back, playing passes, getting involved, but not too involved, like doing what a striker should do, just kind of like laying it back and then getting into the right positions. I think his overall play for the time that he's played has been absolutely excellent. And I think he's been, and I think he's been brilliantly effective. I think the reason Rich may have quoted me from earlier was this was pre-season, when we were talking about me not being massively upset about him doing his little West Ham sign and him wanting to leave Aston Villa, because I did say I don't see a scenario, doesn't matter how Ollie Watkins plays, where John Duran starts. I mean, Ollie Watkins is, if reports are to be believed, not fit. He is in a poor run of form. He's not scored a goal in the Premier League since the middle of April. So it's 8 games now without a goal. We're well into September now. He is not just not scoring, Ollie Watkins. He is missing sitters. He is missing one-on-ones. He does not look fit. He does not look sharp. He doesn't look on the ball, and that's fine. And I'm not gonna do what everyone wants me to do and say, "Oh, Ollie Watkins is a terrible player. I always knew this was going to happen, and last season was luck or anything." Ollie Watkins is a really good footballer, but he's clearly not in form. So, if I was Unai Emery, or better yet, if I was John Duran, and I thought, "Well, look, I'm in scintillating form. I'm, the lead striker, the talisman of the team who's ahead of me is injured and playing like crap. If I can't start now, I'm never getting a chance at this club." And I think it's important to have the team as a meritocracy. I think if you're not playing well, then you need players behind you to be given a chance. And I think Ollie Watkins has always been a weird one, because I remember when we brought in Danny Ings and we thought, "Oh, this is great. We've got 2 top strikers and they're gonna, they're gonna do competition, like give each other competition." And Ollie Watkins didn't thrive off that at all. Actually, I think his worst period at the club was when Danny Ings was here, and when they were sort of competing for the same place. So maybe Ollie Watkins doesn't react well to, doesn't react well to competition. But this is not the Ollie Watkins club. This is Aston Villa, and if Ollie Watkins is not the best man for the job at the moment because he's not fit and because he's not firing, because he's had a lack of confidence. And let's be honest, Ollie Watkins is doing what Ollie Watkins always does. He is out of form. And that's why I always called him Purple Patch Ollie. The only thing was last season, his Purple Patch lasted for, since the start of the season to April. So he had a brilliant season.
It took him 5 or 6 games, didn't it, to score at the start of last season?
He had a quiet start to the season. He was played like an absolute madman, not just goals, but assists up until April. And at that point, I think he was overplayed last year. And I've said this before. I think the reason his form dipped and the reason that he suffered was because he was knackered. He played too many games. And, you can't... I'm sure John Duran will get starts. I'm sure he'll get starts in the Cups. I'm sure maybe not in the Champions League, but there might be the odd game. I mean, if you don't start him against Leicester, I don't know when you're going to start him. But I think Duran deserves a start. I think Ollie Watkins has pulled out the England squad because he's allegedly unfit. So let Duran start. Everyone says, "Oh, he's a super sub. He's better off the bench." How do we know if he's better off the bench? He never plays. He never starts. You can't give him one start in a year and say, "Oh, see, look, he's not as good when he starts." Give him a little run. Give him 1 or 2 games. Let him see. Let's see what he can do. But I think the reality is, it doesn't matter how Ollie Watkins plays. The majority of the fan base is going to say stick with him. He's a fan favorite. Everyone loves him. Unai Emery rightly loves him because he's very much helped him to get into the Champions League. But as far as I'm concerned, and again, everyone will tie this into an agenda that may or may not exist. I haven't worked it out yet, but I think John Duran's got to start. I think he's earned it, and I think we have to be a meritocracy, and the best players should play for the good of Aston Villa Football Club. I think that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, look, we've got Everton at home on the 14th, Young Boys away on Tuesday the 17th, Wolves at home Saturday the 21st, Wickham away Tuesday the 24th, Ipswich away Sunday 29th of September. So, what's that? 5 games in 2 weeks. So you would have thought that John Duran would at least get 2 starts out of that.
Particularly with an unfit Watkins.
Yeah. I mean, even Watkins with 2 weeks rest will still probably not be 100% fit if that is the case.
I think what you've got to realise as well is, if you look at John Duran, you look at some of the other players that we have in or around the squad, at his age, like he's an exceptional talent. Do you know what I mean? Like, for 20 years old, since Hitzelsberger, do you remember anyone hitting the ball as hard as John Duran does?
No.
He does these beautiful things. He did it against Leicester, where like the ball comes in, he just turns instinctively.
Yeah, he rolled the defender and just smashed it. Yeah. If it had been 2 or 3 centimeters either side of the goalkeeper, they wouldn't have seen it. The keeper didn't see it go into his hands. He just happened to be straight at him.
This is what I'm saying. He's got so much unique talent and ability. He's tall. He's brilliant in the air. That header against Everton. Oh my goodness! hits the ball at 1,000 miles an hour. He can header. He's fit. He's quick. He's strong. You can see why people were Chelsea were looking at him 50 million.
Chelsea still wanted him on deadline day. Apparently,
everyone will want him because he's 20 years old. He's shown that he can score in big games at important moments. He can win games for a team in the Premier League. And this is the thing. He's got so many strings to his bow. And I think there's a guy on Twitter. I can't remember. I think it's like E Buendia or something like that. EB something. That's his handle anyway. He did a montage for John Duran, and he called it Redemption Arc or something like that. And I couldn't believe how much he had to put into this little VT. It was incredible. I really think that John Duran needs to be given a fair crack of the whip. But my fear is with Ollie Watkins is he doesn't really respond well to that. And I'm with John Duran on this. I don't think whatever happens, he's given a fair shake. I think he's always going to play second fiddle to Watkins, regardless of Watkins' form.
Do you know what though? With Watkins coming back from like no preseason, obviously not playing in the Dortmund game, I think if it hadn't been for Duran doing his iron sign and then removing all his social media and all that kind of stuff, because you can have transfer rooms, fine. I think if it hadn't been for that, he may well have started at West Ham. I think he didn't start at West Ham because he probably felt like he didn't want to reward him after everything he'd done, and Watkins obviously wanted to play. I think he probably made it harder for him to start. Watkins, the solution might be there. He's clearly not fit. I think he would be scoring those chances, at least one of those 3 or 4 chances he's had if he'd been fit. Because I think even particularly the first one against Arsenal, because he had like half the goal to aim at. He had time, and the second one, it's a great save, but all these different things. Leicester, I mean, he should have dinked it or toe poked it when he was through in the goal. I thought he did quite well to get the second shaft, but still, you got to be expecting to score there.
Oh, he's not done well. He's robbed Morgan Rogers from about 3 assists. And I just to clarify as well, I think I'm not saying, that's it, Ollie Watkins is washed, get rid of him. I'm just saying until he's fit, until he's out of his drought, which he has most seasons, he has every season since he's been at Villa, just give him a break. You have another option there. I'm just saying utilize the rest of the squad. I'm not saying drop him and he's horrible and he's a terrible player and we'll never play him again. But just whilst he's not 100%, let him get some fire in his belly. Let him see that John Duran's doing his thing. And if John Duran goes quiet for a little bit, then put Watkins back in and say, all right, now you're back in. Let's see the form that you showed last year that gets into the Champions League. And let them compete with each other. Like, what's wrong with that? Why is that? Even Haaland gets dropped for some games. Last year, Pep was like, no, you're not in. Alvarez is in. If Haaland can be dropped, then...
Yeah, no, I look, I think it's a case. I think the case for John Duran, he's doing himself every favour. Last season we talked about the kind of attitude in inverted commas, however that is phrased. John McGinn has talked about how he's changed his character and he's come back firing. So he's doing every single thing that he can do to kind of put himself in that picture, and that's what you want from a player. Like that's what professional footballers are, and us as supporters, we hold our players now to a higher standard. So if they're not performing at that level and someone else is, then good. We want our team to win games. So it doesn't mean we don't like Ollie Watkins as a player. It doesn't mean that we don't like John Duran. It doesn't mean that we don't like John McGinn. We've had a conversation on the last fans forum of if everyone was fit, would John McGinn be the player to maybe drop out? Like that's reality. That's football. That's life. So, but I think it's a real positive actually to have these two players at a level now where you've got these options to maybe bring on. You've got someone who can come on and score goals, someone who's knocking on the door to start a game. Then you've got a player who is working his way back to fitness, who maybe could be taken out of the team for a few games and then get that fire in his belly, like you say, Sam, to come back in and say, right, you've got to start me. Look, Newcastle operated with Isak and Callum Wilson at one point. Callum Wilson was pissed off that Isak was playing. He came on and scored. Isak still started the next game. Wilson came on and scored again. Yeah, he was probably going to get injured the next couple of weeks, but it's still, that's what you want. You want players battling for position. You want the striker who's starting to score a goal, the striker who comes on for 20 minutes to score a goal again, to say to the manager, I'm better than him. I want to play. That's what you want. Like sometimes I don't get this with Villa fans where we get this blind loyalty to a player because they've done well. Like the professional football is a ruthless game, and you want to take that man's shirt in who's playing in your position. That's what you want. So
100%.
This is the game that we're playing. We're not there. You're not there to make friends. You're there.
Tell them again,
like,
Rich. Tell them again.
When Boubacar Kamara gets back fit, you're not going to turn around and say, "Oh yeah, do you know what Amadou? You're playing so well, mate. He's so much better than me." He's going to be like, I want your spot. Like,
no one in a football team should be safe. No one should get onto the pitch knowing that they're going to play come what may in the next game. That is, and that's the idea.
Gaz, I know you love Ollie Watkins. I know you think that we have an agenda against Ollie Watkins. We haven't. We love Ollie Watkins. We're just talking about a player who's playing really, really well, okay, and a player who is knocking on the door for the first team and asking the question, does he deserve to start ahead of him?
Another thing for Gaz, he says blind loyalty 3 games. Well, if we talk about being blind, I've just said he's not scored since April. It's been 8 games without a goal. And you talk about agenda, by the way. I captained Ollie Watkins in my fantasy team for the first 3 games.
I gave him last year's play. I gave him player of the season.
The thing is,
the alternative side to this is because obviously we are a part of different.
Yeah, you his manager, mate. Do you want to talk? Shall we talk about it?
One thing, Sam. I think Ollie Watkins has more than proved himself, and I was defending Ollie Watkins in a pub on a Friday night, and I got really furious about it. So we will have different opinions, guys. But you know, my perspective is Watkins scored 27 goals last season, 13 assists, 19 Premier League goals. He scored 10 plus the 2 previous seasons. He scored a phenomenal goal for England in the semi-finals. He's carrying a little injury maybe, but he has more than earned the right to be our starting striker.
You got to be trolling us at this point. How you can say we hate a player? People use the word hate too much.
Yeah. Look, from my perspective, he's very much earned the right to stay in the team after 3 games of the season.
I don't think anyone has a divine right to do anything. If he's gone 8 games in the Premier League without scoring a goal, then you drop him for someone who's in form. What do you mean right? Who has a right to do anything? What do you mean right? I don't get it. You play the players that are in form. If he's injured, hold on, Kev, one sec. If he's injured and he's out of form, and you've got another player in the same position who's playing brilliant football, scored 2 goals against Liverpool at the back end of the season, scored 2 winning goals this season. If he's Ollie Watkins, you just said Ollie Watkins is injured. He's injured. He's out of form. What do you mean he's got a right to stay in the team?
If he's injured, if he's injured. But what I'm saying, if he's saying he's fit and ready to go,
you just say he's injured.
What? I'm not his fucking medical staff, am I? But I'm saying
he's injured. You just said he's carrying an injury.
If he's carrying an injury and he's still listen, I don't know what's happened with his injury record. I just know that he's withdrawn from the England squad, right? And I know he doesn't seem like he's been at it. But what I'm saying is that if he's fit and he says he's ready to go, he does so much more off the ball than I think Duran does. He's tactically better than Duran. He's more rounded than Duran as a player. He works harder for the team, I think, than Duran does. He's more tactical. I think he's got more experience. He adds so much more than the maverick skill that Duran has got. I think Duran has got everything, and I've been very supportive of Duran, even despite all of the kind of contentious stuff that he's done, because I'm just like, you know what, he's got something that if you wanted to buy that, you're spending 40-50 million on it. He's a brilliant backup striker. It's on Emery to manage it, to manage this situation, to keep Duran happy and to keep Watkins in good form. Hey, if Watkins don't score for the next 2 games and miss his chances and Duran is still doing it, I'll be saying 10, 11 games of him not scoring, I think it's probably time then. But I do think Watkins absolutely needs to start the next game if he's fit.
Yeah, I don't even disagree with you. I'm not saying to drop Watkins. I'm saying to manage.
Nor me. I'm
saying to manage it whilst he's injured, whilst he's out of form. And the thing is, Watkins will do this. Like he did it last season. He went, I think, before the start of last season. I think, what did he go? He went something crazy like 12, 13, 14 games without scoring. So as we got into last season, I was giving him absolute pelters. and I was saying he's not good enough, he's this and that, and he carried that on into the start of last season, like you said, Rich, and then he went on absolute blinder for the rest of the season until April when he stopped scoring again. I've always described Ollie Watkins as a purple patch player, and that's what he is. So all I'm saying is, whilst he's out of form, Villa, the team doesn't have to suffer. For example, if John Duran got both of those chances that Ollie Watkins got against Arsenal, would we have won that game? Maybe. And why? Because Ollie Watkins wasn't at 100%. If Ollie Watkins is at 100% and he's at his best, of course start him, because he's one of the best players and one of the best strikers in the Prem at his best. My point is with Ollie Watkins that he's not always at his best, and now we have a viable alternative. We have someone who's shown that he can do it. So I'm not saying drop him. If he's playing well, I want him to play. Like I say, I gave him all the praise in the world last season. I captained him in my fantasy team to my own detriment at the start of this year. I don't have anything against Watkins. I'm just saying competition exists. I don't think Ollie Watkins has a divine right to do anything. I think his performances dictate whether he stays in the team or not. And I think right now, if he's injured and if he's out of form, then drop him. But one last thing I'll say is I noticed, at the start of the season, a lot of people talking about Ollie Watkins and him being away for England and how that impacted the start of the season. And I remember saying to you boys in the chat, no one's used this excuse for Konsa, by the way, who not only played more minutes than Ollie Watkins in the Euros, but was there for as long as him, came back in and started playing pre-season immediately. Do you know what I mean? I think extra defense from people like Gaz and everyone else who are staunch defenders of Ollie Watkins, I think they're overly defensive because they feel like I'm attacking him. I'm absolutely not. I acknowledge that he's a brilliant player and he's a massive asset to Aston Villa. I'm just saying it's to our detriment to play him every game. It's to his own detriment. He will get injured. He will go through these bad periods because he's too tired. The back end of last season, he was knackered. He should not have been starting games, but he did. And that's what I'm saying. We don't have to do that anymore.
I think there's more kind of focus on, if you're a striker. I think if you're someone like Konsa in a team like Aston Villa, you can probably be, unless you make an absolute rick and give the ball away, I think you can probably get through a game and not have too much on you. Whereas
he's
someone
been
like
brilliant,
Watkins,
he's been brilliant for the first three. He's been standout brilliant.
Yeah,
He's not just keeping his head down. He's been brilliant.
But if you look at the two star forward players this season in terms of Haaland and Salah, they both had their summer off. So I don't think you can not take into account that Watkins, you made the point there, Sam, like he was running on fumes back end of last season. Clearly, put Evaniki in. He was used so much by Villa. Look at the output, 27 goals, in all comps, 13 assists in the Premier League, phenomenal. He's more than for me, proving himself. But I think that maybe the lack of squad depth last season and the confidence they've got in the squad, and maybe Duran being a bit raw last season, means that he has maybe caught up with Watkins, and it's why he's come into this season. If he has maybe had a slight injury and whatever, but I think he's probably it's just reassuring for me that we've got that option, because I was a lot more concerned about Duran 6 months ago. This is the
exact thing we're in agreement with. It's brilliant that we've got this option. The question posed at the start was, when is it a time to kind of give either to give Watkins a rest because he's injured, like you said, Kev, it might give Emery that little bit of an easier kind of decision to make if it is a case of, look, rest up, get yourself back fit, come back firing, or is it a case of, look, you are a little bit out. John Duran's been doing it. He's the man with the shirt at the moment, which is, as a team and as a squad, is what you would want from your players to be doing. Much the same as if Jacob Ramsey started banging in goals and it was the position that John McGinn was taking or Morgan Rogers was taking, that you would say, right, he's got his place in the team now, or Emi Buendia started taking his opportunity, or Lamar Bogard or whoever it is. That's how you work as a football team. You play the players that are in form, or you play, obviously, and then there's certain nuances and certain tweaks for different formations or different opposition that you're playing against, but that's what you do.
I think you're right, Richard, and as well, I think it's just to sort of end on it. I think Aston Villa are very lucky to have Ollie Watkins in their squad as more often than not a first choice, but to have him as an option regardless of what direction they go in. I think Villa are also very lucky to have arguably, and if someone disagrees with me, please give me a name. But I would say probably the most promising young striker in the Premier League. Let's say 21 and under, 22 and under. I think we've got one of the most.
Sam, I'll take it further now. I think we've got the best 2 strikers in the league as a couple of options.
Haaland, I'd probably get him in there at some point. But I mean, we've got 2 brilliant.
No, but Haaland and who? I'm on about in the same team.
As a 2. As
an option to play one or the other or both.
Yeah, no, I think if you combine with Julian Alvarez leaving, I actually completely agree. I think you've got some really brilliant players, and I think last season when Morgan Rogers was kind of shoved into the team because of injuries, and everyone could have said the exact same thing. Oh, he's a kid, he's never done it, and this X, Y, and Z. And look what he's gone on to do at his young age. I think it was in the final whatever minutes of the game against Leicester, we had 8 or 9 players who were under the age of 23. Like this is the direction Villa are going, and I think it's I think we have to utilize all the resources at our disposal. Ollie Watkins being a massive resource for us, John Duran being an important resource, and I think you have to be fair. I think to avoid discontent within the squad and people being disgruntled and wanting to move to, why the hell would you want to move to West Ham from Aston Villa right now? The only reason you do it is because you don't think you're getting a fair shake of the stick and you're not going to play. To some extent, and I said this before the season started, before he started scoring these goals, I empathise with him. So I think it's really important that we utilise the whole squad, not just up front, but everywhere else. We do have more depth than we had last season, apart from maybe on that right side, like Kev said earlier. So just utilise it. And one last one for Gaz, who thinks that he's reinventing the wheel by saying that he trusts Unai Emery. We all trust Unai Emery, but the purpose of this podcast is to have an opinion and discuss, team selection, what we think about the players. So, yeah, of course we all back Unai Emery. If he wants to play Ollie Watkins, we're not going to stop throwing cabbages at him. But, we can talk about it. No, this is the problem, is talking about the idea of dropping Ollie Watkins is unfathomable and out of the question for some
Well,
people.
I knew what I was doing. So
yeah, you're a son of a gun as well, because you knew what you said. The thing is, I genuinely, having thought about it, I don't care. I think very much what I think, and I do think to a certain extent, I have been harsh on Watkins in certain areas. I think sometimes, and I was talking to my brother about this, I think sometimes watching Ollie Watkins, and I think before last season, the amount of one-on-ones he missed, and the easy, it's always the easier chances with Ollie Watkins. It's the one where he has the most time. And those really frustrated me in his early career. And I'm not sure I've 100% got over it. And watching him do it again this season is kind of like a bit of PTSD. But I think what Kev has said is right and wrong. I don't think he has earned the right to play for Villa every week. But I think he's earned the right for me to be patient with him and to wait and see what he does before I pass judgment or comment on him. I'm not having a go at Ollie Watkins. I'm just saying he's out of form and he could probably do with a break.
Yeah, and I'm saying it's great that we've got 2 options in at the moment with him and John Duran, and it's amazing how much John Duran is suddenly flavour of the month again after being public enemy number 1 after a couple of goals.
Which I said he would be as well.
And Ollie Watkins, when he scores a hat-trick against Everton, is going to be my favourite player again. Let's go.
All you've got to do is score goals.
Let's just love it.
All you've got to do is score goals. I absolutely agree. Someone could come around, a football player, and slap your whole family around the face. And if they went and scored a hat trick at the weekend, you'd be like, "Come and do it again next week." No worries.
It's a performance. It's a performance. It's a results game, isn't it? It's a results business.
Could you imagine Grealish behind these 2? Supporting? No, don't do it.
You've mentioned it.
I'm joking.
We've been going for an hour and a half.
Benny McCarthy is an option off the bench. Benny McCarthy would be good, wouldn't he? Anyway, sorry.
Well, boys, what a show, what a debate. Brilliant stuff. And thank you for everyone's comments as well. They come flying in, and it really does drive the debate as well. So thank you so much. Over 300 people watching at past 11 o'clock at night as well is fantastic. If you haven't already, please make sure you like the stream on YouTube on your way out. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Help us on the road to 5k. On X, follow us at Villa Park Pod, at KTAVFC, and at Samwise1071. We've got plenty of shows coming up for you over the next week or so. Obviously, international break, so it's boring, but We will be back next week with a special fans forum, hopefully with some special guests. I've got 1 or 2 confirmed already, hoping to get 1 or 2 more, just reviewing Villa's start to the season and future games coming up, and yeah, all of that jazz. And also match preview for Everton, match previews for the Champions League, our first foray into that as well, all coming very, very soon. Thank you everyone for watching. Sam, Kev, thank you very much for joining me tonight. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.